There you go. This sign has seen some better days. Hey guys, today I'm at the Reed Gold Mine in North Carolina. This is the first gold discovery in the United States. We're gonna take a tour, we're gonna see some old historic stuff, and we're gonna take a walk down the historical gold mining in North Carolina and the East Coast. We're gonna take a little tour of the Reed Gold Mine Museum. I'm gonna walk through here and try and video as much as I can. And if you're interested in reading some of the displays, you go ahead and pause and you can read kind of some of the displays and what they got going on. But I'm just gonna do a quick walk through here. Well, a little bit empty, and see if I can share some of this history with you guys. First off, a huge thank you to the Reed Museum and Gold Mine Tours. They have set up a really interesting display, and there have been a ton of people that have volunteered their time.
Here we go, first discovery.
And their energy to set this up and preserve the history of the area. So much of this information would be lost if it wasn't preserved in these museums. They have a really good display of a lot of gold in here, a lot of gold nuggets that were mined from the area, and a lot of these nuggets were really, really big in size. We're talking pounds and pounds and pounds. I think the biggest nugget they pulled out of this area was 28 pounds. They were talking about nuggets the size of potatoes routinely being found in this creek. And here's an example of one of the larger ones at 23 pounds. And there's a ton of great stories about the old miners trying to get their gold to the mint to make coins and getting robbed along the way. This museum has one of the best preserved equipment displays I've ever seen, from pumps to crushers to the mercury copper plates you see here under the stamp mills. There is a bunch of really well preserved equipment. So if you're a mechanical guy and you want to go look at some really well preserved and painted equipment, this is the place for you. This mine being on the East Coast, the history is so much older than on the West Coast, and a lot of this was done before the West Coast mining boom happened, and so they're really trying to figure it out. And at the end, they have a really interesting section on the concentrating and smelting. Here's an old Wilfley table. They have a lot of old crucibles and things like that. There's a lot of cool stuff in here. If you're ever in North Carolina, come check out the Reed Gold Mine. Put up a real nice little display here. Crucibles, man. We got smelting crucibles.
Nice. That's big dog crucibles.
Yeah. There's the furnace. They go in the furnace there.
You're getting all cranked up about doing some big smelting.
Yeah. I like these ones with the pour spout. That's pretty slick.
Seems like you need one of these.
I do need one of these. I wonder if this one's for sale.
Down there is Little Meadow Creek. In 1799, a 12-year-old boy named Conrad Reed came across what appeared to be a very large shiny rock. A local city jeweler informs John Reed that he has a 17-pound nugget of gold, and then asks him to name his price for it, $3.50. The jeweler sold the gold nugget to someone else for $3,600. This area would be referred to very frequently as the potato patch, because they were on a very regular basis finding gold nuggets about the size of cooking potatoes. They would continue doing this up until about 1830, 1831. Then they would shift their focus to digging underground. As we go in, you'll be able to see all those quartz veins, all those white rocks that are on both sides of the entrance.
Whoever's last, close the door.
Close the door. This is one of my favorite things coming into these old mines. Every mine is a little bit different. The way they timbered, the way they mined, the way they stoped. So it's always fun to come check out these new gold mines. This was an interesting one because there are quartz stringers all over this mine. But the interesting thing about this area is none of the underground stringers have produced big gold nuggets like they found on the surface. So it's a real mystery where these large gold nuggets in the creek came from. Quartz all over the place.
Yeah.
This would be about how tall that the mine would have been back then. This is one of the main mining shafts. Most of the other ones are kind of blocked off. That would be kind of dangerous to try to crawl through.
Veins everywhere in here.
Yeah, the quartz looks pretty boring except for stuff like that.
Yeah. Surprised they didn't drift more on any of these. Oh, he's just going. There's just veins all crisscrossed through here.
There are no documented depths at this mine. That's a good question, because a lot of other ones, they don't really tend to care as much. So all the big gold was pretty much found right away. There definitely still is some gold further down there, but we're not really allowed to dig further. But also, all the gold that is down there would be like very small.
Yeah.
And the equipment that we would have to use for it would be more expensive than what we would be getting back.
It's really cool seeing these bolts in the wall for ground control, as well as all this timbering. It's the exact same way we do it in my mind, and it's probably been done this exact same way for hundreds or thousands of years.
So this area here is what is called the gallery, because this is where they would store all the candles and torches. Once they found what they thought might be gold, they would bring it up here and hold it underneath the candles to examine it. Back then, they didn't have any lights down here. Imagine being down here in that mostly pitch black darkness all day long and digging your way through a bunch of dirt. Of course, the payoff being you might get rich. Maybe. Hopefully.
Oh, slicks. Nice. Yeah. That's cool. It's impressive they have bolts in here. Must have been after the fact, huh?
Yeah, maybe after they bought it.
Yeah. This is the problem area.
Long gone. Early 1900s is when they started using those.
Mm-hmm.
The miners would have used this giant bucket to load all their gold and minerals and whatnot, and then they would use a pulley to carry it up to the surface and then cart it off somewhere else with a horse and buggy.
It always blows my mind every time I come into one of these old gold mines that how much work these guys did by hand stealing, hand mucking, the fumes, the dirt, the dust, the danger. It's amazing how much work these old guys did for gold. Sounds like this is the main shaft that went down into the workings here. In the bucket. There we go. This sign has seen some better days. That was pretty cool, that underground stuff. There's a lot of quartz veins crisscrossing around under there. But if you're finding potato-sized nuggets and bigger gold, I can't believe this hill isn't just a hole in the ground. But maybe, 200 years ago, it was a lot of work. Underground mining, candles, all by hand. You needed some pretty good returns to be able to do much work. And maybe they weren't getting it underground, I'm not sure. We'll do a little more walking around. I'll see if I can find some more cool stuff for you guys. The engine shaft, 150 feet deep. Man, that's a lot of work. Make a hole that big. It's the old mill house. That's cool. Unexcavated area. So this is where they probably brought up the engine shaft and milled their ore here. This is the Chilean mill. They had two big huge wheels that would sit in here and go around and around. If you watch my videos from my African trips, I've seen these in Africa where they just go around, and I call them the Flintstone machine. They just crush the rock and they'll put mercury down there to recover the gold. Here's our wet pan mill, cone mill. Call them cone mills here. These big huge wheels go around and crush the ore, and when it's crushed they open up this door and it goes out. That's cool. I don't think I've ever seen one out of stone. This is how they used to make them, obviously. Kind of like a big flour mill. They'd put rocks in there and grind them up. It's got a rock.
Yeah, a good rock.
There we go.
Yeah, see all that kind of orangey, punky. If you kind of, it's pretty soft
stuff in here.
Yeah. It's kind of coming all, and then it's like really disseminated in that wall rock chunk right there, and through there. That's where all your pyrite is, and probably also the gold.
Yeah.
And the manganese,
The black.
all the black.
Super black.
Yeah, that's
And
like.
It must have came in pretty high energy, ripping wall rock off into the veins.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, there's fluid everywhere out here.
This would be the one you'd want to crush up and run.
There we go.
Yeah.
North Carolina ore right there.
That's what we saw in hole 1 at Silver Hill.
Is this stuff?
Stuff like this, yeah.
With the limonite and the...
Yeah, the limonite. Yeah, it's different rocks, but just
all
like
this
this.
stuff.
Yeah. So there could be any variety of sulfides, and you can tell what sulfide, well, if you're like a stud and you look at like the different structure, like all the, like the box work in here, then you can kind of work out like what type of mineral it was.
Yeah.
Originally.
Before it got all oxidized.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but a lot of times you don't have the box work, so it's like pretty difficult. But in general, that color out here is kind of the jam.
Yeah. It's kind of more that like a little bit of purple you were talking about, dark red, purple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this whole variation from like kind of orange into like, yeah, like your purplish or your like more maroonish colors.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we were sampling in that pit. That ran like 17 grams gold at Silver Hill.
Well, I can't get in the building, but there's the original stamp mill up there. Way up on the 2nd floor. And it looks like there's a pipe coming out of the wall down onto this big shaker table. Oh yeah, nice shaker table. Still got the cons line on there. They didn't brush it down.
Well,
I know. A lot of cool stuff.
like gold is.
All right, we're wrapping up our tour of the Reed mine. This is a really cool place, you guys. If you're ever in the area, be sure to check it out. It's pretty cheap, the tour's pretty cool, and they found some really big gold here. So I'll leave a link to their website down below if you're ever around and you want to check it out. But thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you on the next video.